We're live. I'm waiting for the YouTube to show up.
Tripods are dodgy things.
Oh, they are. Although I miss my Gorilla one. I got rid of way too much stuff when we moved from China because I was like, oh, I'll just buy more in the next country. Little did I know.
You can buy sneakers or lights instead, actually.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. Okay, we are live. We are live. Okay, hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Puccio, and I'm coming to you live from the capital of Albania, a tiny country just next to Italy and just above Greece. I am the producer, host, and editor for Geopats Podcasting, who is hosting this first ever Global Women Podcast Editor Panel. And I am so excited, but slightly nervous, so I'm looking down at my notes. I do apologize. Okay, so we have 4 panels this month, every Tuesday at varying times to accommodate for our wonderful global guests that we'll introduce to you in just a second, that I will introduce to you in just a second. But first, with these panels started because of conversations I was having in private women podcast editing Facebook groups, as well as after publishing an article about those groups. And so I wanted to have another platform because that wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I wanted to talk to women podcast editors more. So I created these panels, and it's part of Geopats Podcasting, which normally talks to podcasters or podcast listeners. But this month, I wanted to talk to podcast editors. Oh, yay. Our 4th panelist is here. Add. Hi, Emmeline. Okay, so let's keep going. So, I also have a podcast. Hi. I'm just doing the quick intro. So hold on just one second. All right. So I also have a podcast editing newsletter, and I will send the links to everything that we're talking about in this panel to everyone that signed up. After the panel's over, I don't want to overwhelm the chat room with tons of links, so I will send that out to you. If you haven't already registered for the event at Eventbrite, please go on and make sure you're over there so that you will get all of those links. Okay, that is enough about me. Now it's time to meet our wonderful global panelists. Emmeline, can you start us off quickly introducing where you are and who you are?
Sorry, was that Emily or Emmeline?
Emmeline. Oh, sorry, I'm pointing to where she is on my screen.
Yeah, same for me, don't worry.
I think there's a delay.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely a delay. Okay, Emily, can you start us off?
Yeah, sure. So hello, my name is Emily. I am based in the UK, not far from London, and I am a freelance podcast editor. So I am self-employed, and I have a range of clients who actually are all female. I don't especially work with females, but that's just how it is at the moment, which is fantastic. I love creating that space for female voices to be heard and more females to be seen in the business world and space. And I have been editing audio now for about 2 years, but in the last 12 months, that's where I've really kind of gained momentum and more female clients, and have kind of learned a lot more in the last 12 months as well. So I am actually self-taught, and that's something that I feel like my learning and education is always growing. I'm always looking to kind of raise my skill level, my abilities, and sort of look into the future. I'd love to get into like producing and kind of bringing shows together and work on creating and the content and bringing that side together as well. So that is me.
Fantastic. Chavi, can you go next?
Sure. So I'm Chavi. I'm in Mumbai, India, and I wear a lot of hats in the podcasting field. And one of them is editor, and that editor hat actually has 2 descriptions as well, because I edit content. So I'm a podcast series editor. And that means I look at scripts and I decide what should stay and what should not be in the podcast itself. If it fits thematically with the other episodes in in a theme or in a series and things like that. And I also do sound editing, but at a very basic level. Like I'm not a sound designer. I'm totally self-taught. So when I'm producing for myself and for clients who can't afford great sound engineers who've like school for it and stuff and don't need extreme amounts of audio magic, but just like basic levels of, make it sound decent and people can understand what's going on, then I do that kind of editing as well.
Gotcha. Great. And Emmeline, can you go next? I'm not entirely sure if she can hear us.
Yeah. There's a lot of ambient noise, but it's hard to tell.
There is. Emmeline, can you hear us? Huh. Not quite sure. Okay. Let's get started. Okay, so I think you both already talked about what kind of editing that you do. And one of you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about how to make your editing more efficient. Ooh, so I'm not going to jump in on this one immediately. I'm going to wait for you guys to do this. So who wants to go first? How can you make your podcasting more efficient, or your podcast editing more efficient? What do you do?
Emily, tell us everything.
Yeah, right. That's like the $1 million question. I think people are so surprised to hear how time intensive editing a podcast can be. And I think everyone's always looking for ways to speed that up. For me, what I've really found, I edit using Adobe Audition. So I found a few little things within Audition that have really helped me speed things up. The first one is to match loudness. So I just load all my tracks in and hit match loudness. So at least I know I've got a consistent sound level across all the tracks, because that's definitely one thing where you can spend so much time like tweaking like this one up a little bit and this one down, So that's my first one that's really sped things up. What else do I do? Oh, I love using like auto gates to get rid of silence on tracks. And I think as well, like I've just much the same as you guys now, I can just read the sound waves that I know what's an I know what an and looks like, I know what a sigh and a tut look like. So I'm just so much quicker now at just taking those bits out. Those are my immediate ones. Anyone else? I'm sure lots of more will come to me as we get into it.
So, with cleanup of audio tracks that other people have done, I now advise, I also do workshops now. I advise people who are, I'm training, if they're recording a monologue, like by themselves, either a narration track or an intro, an outro, but not with a guest, not with an interview live. I really try to tell them to make my life easier by recording don't re-record fragments. If you stumble, like rewind yourself and start from the beginning. Yeah. And then I tell them basically to use what studios do, which is to make a clap or a snap so that I can see it faster.
Yeah.
So it really helps speed things along if they do cooperate. And I really urge them to do that. Of course, if there's like, I tell them you can't like act like, you've got a genie and be like, clap, clap with random guests on your Zoom call, but it does help quite a bit. The other thing I do is I get transcriptions that run through AI. So Otter is really helpful. Very bad with an Indian accent. But still, it's still helpful as marks of who's saying what. And of course, scanning or skimming through text is so much easier because I can't. I mean, do you guys speed listen? I can't really do that.
No, never.
I think the most I could do is like a 1.2x if I'm scanning for something in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. So at least with the text, if I've got timestamps, I can find section faster when it comes to features or narrative podcasts. That's a tip. I'm
For
happy
sure,
for.
for sure. No, I can't even time listen when I'm doing it as a listener, let alone as an editor. I can't even imagine because a lot of the things I take out are, especially in my own projects, are little things that you can't hear if you go too
No.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a quick side note. I am trying to get. I think there's some connection issues with Emmeline's feed. So Emmeline, if you're watching, if you can hear me, go on your WhatsApp, please. WhatsApp. I want to get you in here, but at intervals. Okay.
She was here for a second. Now she's
Okay. No,
frozen.
she said she can hear us at intervals. So let me repeat the question. So the question is, oh no, wait, I'm gonna do that. Sorry. How do you make your editing more efficient? And before she jumps in, I'll finish. What do I do to make mine more efficient? I think I'm still working on making mine more efficient. I'm searching around and playing with a bunch of different DAWs to find the things that each do best, because I feel like that's one thing that I would like to play. I that would help, like the
What do you
clipboard.
use currently? Oh, yeah.
Currently, I'm on
Hindenburg.
Audacity, Audition, and Hindenburg, but I'm leaning heavily towards Hindenburg right now because it is easier to use with my internet connection.
Mm.
But I don't like the waveform at all. It's very ugly, and I think it's harder to pick out nitpicky things that I want to do.
It doesn't allow for a lot of fine tuning. I've worked in Audition for a bit, and I've worked in like Pro Tools, not at all. There used to be Cool Edit a long time ago. Microsoft, I think, made it.
Yeah.
And I think Audacity works really nicely for certain things, but then Hindenburg, the clip feature for narratives, is just, you can't beat it. It's so
I
good.
love that. Yeah. And I'm also, like you both mentioned, self-taught. And so for me, leveling has been by far the hardest part of editing. And I love the auto editing or the auto leveling that Hindenburg does. I'm addicted to it. It's not the exact sound I want all the time, but it at least is a consistent sound. So I really love that I don't have to think and stress and try to maneuver so many different parts of it. Uh-oh, it looks like we lost her. Okay. I hope she'll come back in. Technology. Oh gosh. Anyway,
When it works, it works.
I know. So what else? Any other thoughts on efficiency before we move on to another?
I don't use so many presets. I feel like I should, but it's always one of those things that I'm always like, when I have some free time, I'm going to watch a few more tutorials and learn how to do this so that when I start my next project, it'll go faster and that day has not.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And I heard the other day someone was talking about just having your templates all set up so that for every, like, because I work on a number of different podcasts, and they said, yeah, have a template for each one so you're not always adding your effects and your presets each time. And exactly the same. I'm like, when I have the time, I'll make all these templates. But week to week, I'm like, nope, I'm just here again doing the same EQ. Like,
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that.
Time never comes that you're like, oh, I can have a day free that I'll make all these
One more
templates.
thing to do today. Yeah, exactly.
Agreed. And part of me wants to ask about like organizational templates also, like in Notion or Airtable or things like that.
Oh.
But I don't want to know the answer because then I'll have more things to put on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I have a tutorial saved, bookmarked, ready to watch as soon as I have that time slot for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It will never come. That time will never come because that's just not how it goes, is it? It's kind of like making a deal with yourself, like, oh, I'm going to do 2 hours of this on every Friday or something. But something always comes along.
Always. I have Friday as my day to catch up, and it's always packed. So I never really get to the other things that aren't on the oops, couldn't do this Monday through Thursday thing. We do have a question from the chat room. Yay!
Wow.
So Hannah is asking, any opinion on using Final Cut Pro X for audio editing? Have either of you used that?
So I haven't. I have sound engineers who do. I've observed them. Really not very qualified to answer. It just seems. I mean, the output is always excellent, and I've seen him doing really wonderful crossfades and super good mixing of sound design features and music. I just feel like the investment in learning all of that, plus also the cost of the software, has always precluded my having jumped in and used it.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have Emmeline on WhatsApp, so I'm going to try to see if I can get her to come in. Can you hear me?
I
Call
want to
again.
respond to Hannah's clicking
no.
up the thing. That's
Yes.
really good. I like it. It's
Okay.
less obvious than acting like you have, colonial people to do your bidding. Tea.
Oh, this is not working. Anyway, Emily, what's your experience with Final Cut Pro X?
Zero experience. My sort of journey, if you want, has been I actually started out editing on Premiere Pro. Just because I was taken over from someone else and she was like, this is what I use and I can just show you how to cut and delete parts. So that's how I started out, and I did that for a little while, and then I switched over to auditions, and I've been on an audition now for a year. And then I do really want to try Hindenburg because I've heard so many good things, and I feel like it would make my life so much better. But again, it's the making that chunk of time to learn it and actually transition over. But I know in the long run it would be really good. Someone said to me the other day, like, oh, don't you find audition just really a very manual process for editing? And I was like, but it kind of is a manual process, right? Like there's little things you can do to lighten the load, but it's always going to be manual because you've always got to listen and actually cut.
Use your
and
fingers and cut stuff.
Yeah.
It is manual, but it's a manual with a million options.
Yeah.
I liked Audition. It's just I end up using both Audacity and Hindenburg. If it's music heavy, I do the cleanup and do my clip cutting, especially for narratives, through Hindenburg, and then I actually put those into Audacity if there's music, because you can fade and mix much better. I mean, sorry, Chris, listening from Hindenburg. That's how it is.
Well, I think the tool makers, the DAW makers, they must know that there's things that their tools do better than others and some that they don't. So, I mean, I don't think that's too much of a secret. Although if he is listening, why the waveform? Why is it like that? I can't deal with this. It's just so hard.
So the origin story, and not to get too far off track, is they developed it to be used in community radio stations, and it needed to just be as intuitive as possible. So it doesn't have too many bells and whistles.
So when you say you don't like the waveform, is it like it's quite hard to like read it?
No, it's half.
It is half. It is half. And for me, like with the waveform that Audition and I think Pro Tools and Audacity use, it's the full thing. So I feel like I can see the words better, and maybe I'm too reliant on my eyes. But with Hindenburg, it looks like there's a bunch of extra stuff at the bottom, which I know doesn't make sense.
The noise, the ambience.
Yeah, so it's harder for me to identify where to cut. Sorry, we just lost Emily, and she's having a lot of technical issues, and I'm trying to get her on WhatsApp. But yeah, it's hard for me to see the exact spot where a word or phrase starts and where it stops, and where it lets you click to copy and cut and do all that is slightly frustrating to me.
Yeah, I think
I'd do a screen share at some point if anybody wants to see it.
If you want to do that, you're welcome. It should be open. That's a really good point. So yeah, down at the bottom. Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah. So Emily, with mixing, like you impossible to get like it's a drop off, like it's a gradient. You can't do waves to fade anything in or out. Do you see that? This is the
I
last
think
track
this
is the
medium will
music.
work for me. So how do I make my editing more efficient? I got into podcast and I didn't know quite much about podcast. I literally just learned in like 1 month. So whatever I know is very basic knowledge. Um, Hi Chavi, hi Emily and Stephanie. Thank you very much for the effort. Um, Answering your question, how do I make my editing more efficient? First off, I'd say I started off as a news producer, and so the experience in editing news reports, editing magazine programs for and micro programs for the newsroom, the state media where I formerly worked, really gave me the push to start up a podcast when because my my satisfaction wasn't really met in the kind of news production we're doing, and I really needed to do something very different. And to be more efficient, I needed to think of how my needs in the media haven't been gratified. What are the stories that I want to tell, I like to tell that haven't been told? And so when I get to editing it, I put myself in the shoes of the listener. I want to pay keen attention to what my sound is like. What does it convey? At what point is this sound coming in? It wasn't probably the best of sound in my very first podcast episode, but I think in the following in the later episodes, I tried so hard to make sure that I put in critiques that came in and try to make a better podcast. But I think it's been 4 months since I last produced any episode, and now I have to produce any. I think the edit will be better because I'm conscious of what kind of sound to use, how my listeners react to the kinds of sounds I use, the kinds of music I use. How do I compress? When do I expand? When is it really necessary to use a multi-piece? A lot of that I learned gradually. I learned gradually as a very young podcaster. I've just been a year old in podcasting, again because in Cameroon it's not something very explored.
That makes sense.
So and another thing is apart from the way people listened and gave me feedback, I always found it very doubtful when a lot of things are paraphrased or a lot of things are just written. So when my listeners get to listen to interviews that are firsthand what people are saying, but I also need to be conscious of what they are saying. So there's some things I really need to edit out because at the end of the day, I need to put in everything I learned in journalism. How am I protecting my sources? How am I protecting the interviewees? How am I also protecting whoever is listening, because it's not everything that you listen to that is probably good. So I have to play the role of the host. I have to play the role of the editor and the producer. All of this has been quite challenging for me, proofreading, editing, and then putting out the script out there. And so it's basically challenging. I think podcasting is something that you learn by the day, you grow by the day. The more you produce episodes, the better you get. It's like me listening to Chavi's books. I think it's something like Books and Bounds. It's something about books. I listened.
Yeah,
it was really Books and Beyond. It was really great the way she put her sound together. And even your trailer is so beautiful. I really loved listening to your trailer. Sometimes I got caught up and I felt I was listening to the entire program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if you heard the first podcast we'd ever made, you would never have said any of these things.
Oh, that's true for all of us, I think.
Yeah. I think you also asked me what my biggest podcasting challenge is. My biggest podcasting challenge is I really don't master a lot of editing softwares. I actually mastered just one, and it's called Nesia. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nesia.
What is it called? No.
Nesia?
Nesia. It's a NETIA. It works in a network, in a newsroom network.
Oh. I haven't heard
Yeah.
of that one. That sounds cool.
Definitely check it out.
It's really simple and nice. It works in the newsroom network. That's what I learned. Basically, from school, I got into a newsroom, and that's what I learned. I have not been able to learn Adobe because I find it quite difficult compared to the NACI I have known. But I think as a podcast, it's important to learn more than one editing software because you cannot always depend on one. Like right now, my editing has been halted because I don't have access to all the options of the NACI I have installed on my laptop.
Mm.
I have to displace myself to go back to where I used to work previously to have to produce more episodes. And I want to work from the comfort of my home, given the
course.
pandemic. So that's the biggest change I have so far. But I think before the year runs out, I'm going to learn how to use 2 other editing softwares for my own personal growth and branding because I think I should produce more episodes. It's highly on demand in Cameroon.
Yeah. Emmeline, can you tell us the name of your podcast, please?
It's Black Truth with Emmeline.
Yay. And we'll have all the links in the wherever that you're consuming this, whether it be the podcast or YouTube channel.
The software is licensed. Is that what you're saying? And you don't have the full version?
I didn't get that.
Is the is there the full version is at your previous workplace and you don't have the licensed version with all the different options and features?
The different only works in the network of so many.
Oh, okay, got it. It's like those like different search engines and stuff that you can only use when you're
machines. It cannot just work. It can only function in the news. The single editing piece. I cannot mix a double snippets. I cannot have a multi piece editing. So I can just do basic editing. I cannot go beyond that using that. So I always have to displace myself to go back there.
Gotcha. Well, that brings up a good question. Is we haven't talked about yet what kinds of podcasts we generally edit. So can we just do a quick round of what types of podcasts do you usually edit? Chavi, can you start us off?
Sure. So I've actually done a bunch of different formats. The monologue of easiest. I do some interview podcasts where it's 2 voices, host, narrator, and we generally mix in the intros and outros and any sort of music bed last. And features, which means multiple voices, up to maybe 8 voices, with a lot of ambience collected on the field. And those are what I normally do myself. And those are really time-consuming.
Emily?
So the podcasts that I work on are interviews and monologues.
Okay. And Emmeline?
I do pretty much what they do, but my style is sometimes very undefined because I work according to my mood, according to the inspiration on the ground. So I don't edit, like unlike Emily. I don't edit for brands. I think what she's doing is really amazing. I haven't gotten to that stage yet. I edit solely for myself. And I like I already said, is because podcast is not something that a lot of people know about. A lot of people want to do it. They ask me, how do you do this? And I explain to them and they find it so difficult. And they don't really know. I've never also known that I could tell people that you can come to me, I'll edit your podcast. You just have to record and I take care of the rest.
Yeah. And I think I'm saying your name wrong and I'm really sorry. Is it Emmeline or Emmeline? Emma?
It's Emmeline.
Emmeline. And the sound in your podcast is amazing. The way you weave music in is absolutely brilliant. So whatever you're doing it well.
Thank you.
So we have a question in the chat room. Oh, I guess I should answer that too. Okay, for mine, I'm mostly doing interview stuff. For my own podcast, it's interviews, and for my clients right now, it is interviews. I don't really want to branch out to stuff that's got many, many different voices. Like I don't see myself doing audio fiction in the future. I like interviews. I like listening to interviews. I think I'll probably stay here for quite a while. But we have a question from Shibs. Sorry, manual zoom. Shibs. Okay, they said, are there a few go-to techniques you employ for complete thoughts or uncomfortable silences in the middle of sentences to make the transition to the next thought easier? Who wants to start this one?
I find that, the rule of thumb I kind of apply is to just use your best judgment as a listener. So exactly as we were saying before, when you're editing, you're also the audience, right? You're taking that point of view. And I think incomplete thoughts are so natural. I just did it right then. It's such a natural way of speaking. And I think in an interview format, I don't think that's a problem. Like, I will leave some incomplete thoughts in if it sounds more natural than having a cut that's quite audible and jarring and then leading into the next question. So I'm quite comfortable to leave like some incomplete thoughts in, because I think that is a natural conversation. And I think people listen to podcasts because they enjoy natural conversations between people. I think a lot of people use podcasts for that feeling of connection and company. So I don't think it's a problem to leave in some natural phrases like that. Silences I do tend to take out, just because, again, in my best judgment, I would prefer not to have those silences. But I think as well, you also have to just be conscious of the pacing. Like, sometimes I will leave in a little break, because otherwise it can sound like someone's speaking very fast, and I would rather have quite a comfortable, like, natural pacing to my episodes as well. I don't know if you guys agree, and if that's a similar stance that you would take.
Who wants to go next? Xavi?
So I'll go.
Steph?
Yeah,
Emily,
I'll go
for it.
All right. I agree with Emily. It's going to sound like dead air if you leave some seconds of silence. But then again, like she said, when you're editing, you become your own audience. First, you're your first audience. You have to judge the material, the content you're sending out. And editing is also a spontaneous process. You get to say, but what if I leave this 2 seconds of dead air? It depends on the content you're editing. You could be editing a really sad topic, a very problematic topic, and you decide, I think this could be an element. It could bring in an element of something, but the dead air shouldn't go above 3 seconds, I think, because above 3 seconds, it could sound like there's a break, there's a breakage, and a fault in editing, sort of inefficiency. So it shouldn't be too long for me. 2 seconds is just okay.
I hate when you're listening to a podcast and you think that it's stopped. Do you ever guys get that? And I think, oh, has it stopped playing? And then I look and I'm like, no, it's just a pause. That's so annoying.
Yeah, I usually blame the network.
Yeah.
So I was working with the BBC on a podcast I was doing with them, and I've never heard it put into numbers like Emily just did, like 3 seconds, but that sounds absolutely right. I just counted it, and that seems like the upper limit. But the phrase that my editor, content editor, not sound editor, was using with me was, she said, you have to land. And this is, and I was also doing the narration. I was hosting this program. So I thought that made a lot of sense. And just like you said, silence is an element of sound. And dramatic pauses are overlooked sometimes. Like Radiolab, do you guys listen to Radiolab? I hate the pacing of Radiolab. I find it really invasive because it doesn't let me stop and think about what I've just taken in. There's just, it's like boom, 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 boom. And like there's no time to process. So I would rather go slower and let people think about what has been said. Now, in a with the question Shibs asked about incomplete thoughts, I agree with both Evelyn and Emily. You want to keep it as natural, but I've had clients who wanted to get rid of every So we did a season. This was a particular client, and in the first episode, there was a lot of and ahas, which is how they normally talk. By the third episode, they had become super self-conscious of it because they'd listen back but they were still not able to control it, right? Because this is not that's not who they are. They're not presenters, they're not hosts. They show up they wanted to do 12 hours in their lives to do a season, and then they go back to just being whatever they do.
Yeah.
So rather than making a conscious effort, because in a conversation they couldn't stop their mm-hms and you knows, they put it on me to get rid of them. And it was impossible. It sounded like robots, where if you just take every single interjection or vocalized pause out, it becomes so clinical and so wrong. So eventually we gave them a sample and we're like, okay, look, this is what it sounds like. We can do it, but it's horrible. And your listeners are going to know. So either stop saying it or let us leave it in, because it's going to sound really terrible.
Sometimes in those situations as well, I just try and find like a happy medium. Like I have a few clients that they feel self-conscious that they go, yeah, you know. So I just try and maybe find the middle ground. I'll take where I can get away with it. I'll remove some, but then I'm like, you need to have some of them still in there because it sounds natural and normal. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to throw a wrench in all of this. I do tend to take out repeated words if they're so often. Like that. Like I'll probably take that out in post. But if it's next to another word and it sounds choppy or starts clipping, absolutely positively not. I don't care what the client or my ears say, it's staying in there because that will sound unnatural. And that's when the robotic stuff happens. But as a listener, when there's too many repeated words or too many false start sentences, it bugs me. So I think I edit like I listen. But for my clients, I have a talk with them at the beginning on what level of that they want. So it's up to them. But for my own podcast, I do tend to take out a lot of extra words and phrases and sounds and mouth sounds and all kinds of stuff. But silence, I agree with Chavi on silence. Silence is powerful. Like there are moments when you want it to be in there, and if you take out excess silence during an emotional moment, then it feels like the people talking about the emotional moment aren't actually processing the emotions, and that's just really bad. So yeah.
Oh, Jemmy's got a comment, and I would like to respond to that. When there are split tracks and somebody is going, yeah, I definitely take it out. I do trainings for hosting, interviewing as well. And this is what we call radio manners. You shouldn't do that because as a host, what I tell my clients is you're the proxy for the listener. And as soon as you step in and go, you're breaking that intimacy and that illusion that your listeners have that they're part of it. And you remind them that you're there and that they're not. So I really, really push people not to do that unless there's a split. Like, just do whatever you want. I'm going to mute you.
Okay. So crosstalk. So Chavi, do you do that just for sounds in crosstalk, or do you do it for when people talk over each other too?
It depends. For when I do stuff with clients, their whole idea is to put forward an idea or a brand, and it's more formal. There's not much room for crosstalk. If that's happening, that's a problem. These are very structured conversations. For general conversation, I haven't done too many panels. And again, I think I've scared them all into behaving themselves and talking one at a time.
I love that. Radio manners. I'm making a note of that phrase.
Yeah, I break that too. I break that a lot, especially when it comes to laughter. And not so much sounds or ahas, but laughter and talking over each other. If it builds momentum, I tend to consciously keep that in because I feel like, although it will break the listener, like host or speaker barrier, I think it kind of builds emotional connection between the people talking in the podcast. So it really depends. It feels like a lot of these answers it depends on that exact clip.
Yeah.
Emily, what do you do?
Speaking over each other when I've got separate tracks, I try and minimize it as much as possible. But I will say over the last 12 months, because so many people are recording over Zoom, another challenge that's come up is when people speak over each other, it completely cancels out the sound. So a lot of my clients are recording over Zoom or Zencaster, it doesn't happen as much, but these platforms that you can use to record remotely. But if I do have separate tracks, I do try and minimize people speaking over each other as much as possible. Just because I feel like maybe I don't know, I'm just trying to build in a bit more of a structure to the conversation in terms of question and answer, but then also I like to foster the feeling that there is a rapport between the guest and the host as well. So if it's a bit of like laughter or someone interjects with like a little joke or something, some of those things I will leave in. But exactly like we've been saying, I think it's all dependent on that clip, right? And yeah, it's just kind of using your best judgment as a listener, like what would you want to hear, how would you best respond to that, and then applying that to it, really.
I feel a t-shirt design coming on, like a waveform on the top and then it depends on the bottom.
Size medium,
case
please.
by case. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So oh gosh. Emmeline keeps coming in and out. We'll see. Oh, what happens with that? Go technology. So let's wrap this up with the question that one of the panelists, I think from one of the other panels this month, because we have 4 of them, quick reminder, we have 4 panels. She asked what we can do to make editing more accessible to people with different abilities. So however we want to interpret that, how do we get more women into this space, more comfortable podcast editing, and more willing to talk about what they do, how they do it, and make it just totally normal for us to be technically podcastery. That's not even a phrase.
It is now.
It is now.
It is now. So, Chavi, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So I'm not qualified to talk about making it accessible to people with disabilities because I just don't know. I guess I'm super privileged and I just can use all the tools that are out there. When I talk to people who are starting out, what I tell them is if you can use Microsoft Word or Google Docs and you know how to do Control-C, Control-V, Control-Z, and a Control-A, you can. I guide them to actually Audacity, which is free open source software. And I also tell them that there are 100,000 tutorials online, and it's if you can do cut, copy, paste, and you can do it, and just be systematic and break it down into the processes, like where do you start, and then micro to macro, and you can do it. So I encourage people who don't have a sound engineering degree, women who are just wanting to put their own words out, to always edit. I say you can't just run something from start to finish as is. Let me remind you, you are not as articulate as you think you are, and definitely your guest is not. So you must edit. Your listeners need you to, and start with Audacity. And then with Hindenburg, again, it's so intuitive to use, just not very many bells and whistles. And I tell everybody that it's the first one will take a long time, but slowly, of course, you get faster. Then if you want to pay somebody to do it, most of the people who come to my workshops are DIY podcasters, and it's a passion project. They can't. So I just try to tell them that, yes, it will be hard in the start, but just do the first one and you'll find it's all coming together.
Right,
and that's it. I just encourage them. I don't really do anything else to make it more accessible.
No, but that is something. Yeah, no, encouraging and showing them. And what we're doing today, hopefully, is part of inviting other women into the space and saying, look, it's
you don't have to go to engineering school. Look at us.
You don't have to go to engineering school at all, ever, at any point. But you can, but you don't have to. Yes. Emmeline, can you hear us? Emmeline? Okay, Emily. What do you think? How can we get more women into the space?
Yeah, no, just exactly as Chavi says that, because I always had a little bit of a hang up in my mind that I was self-taught, and that actually is not a barrier. It's not a problem. Exactly as you say, there are so many resources online to help you. There is so much out there for free, and exactly if you can copy and paste add cut to that and you're away. Like you can do it. And I think it all sounds very overwhelming and it sounds very tech heavy, but it does not have to be. There are so many programs out there that will simplify it for you. And if you just want to get started, you don't need to worry about mixing and levels and things like this. You can just cut and delete and export, and that's absolutely fine. Yes, it is time intensive at the beginning, but you will get quicker. And I would just say, like, don't let the tech side of it put you off, because it really is no more techie than using Google Drive. It's absolutely fine. I think there's just terms that make it sound kind of like bigger and scarier than it actually is. And even when it comes to recording a podcast, like you can have a microphone and all these cables and leads, but you can also just use your iPhone. That's absolutely fine. So I'd say start where you're comfortable, and you can always build up from that place.
Absolutely. Emmeline, can you hear us?
Just so sad.
Technology. Okay. I sent the question to her via WhatsApp, so we'll see if she is able to reply that way. Okay, so how do you handle style in podcasting? I don't know. Have we handled style enough in this? Because we talked about certain aspects of style, like how to deal with spaces, how to do with crosstalk. Is there any other aspect of style that you consider when you're podcast editing?
Well, I guess the Radiolab kind of style, we touched on that. Music, do you guys use beds? Do you guys use a lot of intro, outro music and Foley effects? Maybe, I don't know.
I use music as transitions. I've never gotten good at having it as a bed and having it sound the exact same when I'm doing it as when it's in its final form. So I gave up on that. So I just use it between talking segments and different parts of the episode. And I just fade in and fade out like crazy to do that. So that's pretty much it. But that's for my podcast. For my clients, I haven't had anybody really want music yet, thank goodness, because that's a skill I think is going to take me a little bit more time to master. And I think in interviews, I don't know that we need a lot of music. I don't know.
I think it used to be not a fad. What is the right word? Like it used to be
a trend,
a template, a trend some time
Yeah.
ago, and now I think it's become much more. At least I prefer them much more minimalistic.
A lot of the shows that I work on, I'm trying to think, I think all of them, bar one, have music at the intro and the outro, and then also music transition ins. You know what I'm trying to say, for an ad. And for me, like trying to find that point in mid conversation to cut to transition to music to then have the ad is such a challenge, just trying to find like a natural place for it. And I'm always like, it's always that internal question of like, when should I start the music, when should I fade, like when should I start the fade, when should it come? That is something that I run into probably on a weekly basis, that I'm like, does that sound good? And then I'll listen to it back and I'm like, I think I could fade that a bit more, or the music could be a bit lower. It is a bit tricky with music, actually. I think it does take, it's almost like a different listening skill to just conversation, for sure.
Yeah. As a listener, I appreciate how much effort folks that do audio dramas do, but as an editor, I just don't think I have the patience to do all of that. What I don't like especially is just solo episodes where they have different kinds of music overpowering their speaking, and I'm like, I hold myself back in sending a lot of emails to those folks and like, stop, my ears are hurting. Even if it's a good level, I still feel like it's overpowering, because then I'll get lost in the music and I won't listen to the words. But that's me as a listener. So, and people are so individualistic. So I really wonder, I don't know what that balance is with music in the background or sound beds.
No. I did hear, I don't know if you guys have listened to the Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen podcasts
Not
on
yet.
Spotify.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
heard one, and they had a really good use of music where Barack Obama, I think, was speaking about his grandfather, and then this music started playing, and it was like really evocative, and then that led into the ad, I think. But I was like, oh, that was really clever. That was really good. But I think that's the only sort of recent example where I can think like, oh, the music really added something and really brought
Mhm.
something else to it.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Where do you guys find music? I guess that's a question that I'm always struggling with. I go to a lot of free sound libraries, and I know, at least in this, I differ from my sound engineer friends because
Mm.
they have like a hard drive, like a 1 TB hard drive, and
Mhm.
I don't know how they've acquired this, but it's like, oh, you want this kind of music, and then they'll open a folder and be like, okay, here are some options, and I'm like, it would have taken me 8 years to find 5 tracks because I'm
Yeah.
a system. I don't have a library
For
that
Yeah.
the
I'm familiar with.
music, yeah, for the music for my network, I actually asked a musician I know for one song, and he sent me an album. So I've just been using that for 2 years. And I have a whole episode where I interviewed him too. That was really fun. But other than that, I don't know. I keep making notes when people recommend different places to get music and
Mhm.
sounds, like different libraries. But I see that as being a very big rabbit hole that I'm not sure I want to go down.
Mm.
I could see it taking like a week to pick a 5-second
It does.
clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
because
I,
you can put in keywords and still get thousands of hits.
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
I used to offer it as part of part of my services to say
Mhm.
like, oh, I can source your music, I can send you recommendations for music, and I actually just removed it because it was so time consuming
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I thought, no, actually just don't wish to be part
Oh my
of
gosh.
choosing music.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We have 6 minutes. So Emmeline sent in a voice message on WhatsApp. So let's play with this. Let's see if I can get my volume up high enough
Mhm.
to see what she said.
I'll talk from my case study, which is here in Africa. In Cameroon, I just know one female podcaster, and maybe that's because one thing led to another, and I met her. There could be more. So I think what actually stops many people is access to technology. Not many people can afford full laptops. When they do, internet connectivity is a problem, and when they do, the competence is also lacking. And so we may not be able to teach a lot of women how to edit, how to do that, and we cannot do that in a month or two. It will take time for them to learn, for them to make out time. Not everyone is a full-time podcaster. Other people have things doing, and so podcasting may just be a side hustle. I think what we can do, me for example, I'd say, moving on, I'll do what MD does. I'll put it out there. I'll tell people, I encourage you to join podcasting. I can help you edit your podcast within this time frame. Just get to me, we record, and I'll edit it for you, and for just a token of appreciation, and then we can strike a partnership sort of. It won't really be a pay because it may weigh a lot on so many people. But that's how I think we can encourage in this part of the world. That's how we can encourage a lot of women, because technology, let's admit it, is not really a thing that a lot of women like to delve into. They just shy away from, and it takes the extra push to have to learn technology, learn all the tools that are in. Personally, I don't have a lot of tools to work with, so I'm trying so hard. I'm working so hard with my freelance writing to get a lot of tools that I can install a studio within my house and work full time.
Wow. 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 Was that audible?
Mm.
Okay, great. 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 Okay, we've got 4 minutes. So let's wrap this up. Can we quickly go around and say, well, I'm going to have the links wherever you consume this in the future, whether it be on YouTube or in Geopat's podcasting podcast. That's a lot of podcasts in one sentence. I will have the links to everything that we've talked about and everything and all of the panelists and everything like that. So we don't need to necessarily go around and do that. But if there's a quick closing thought or something you'd like to say to the audience before we go, let's do that. So quick closing thought. Emily.
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know. No, if we're speaking about just, females getting into podcasting and editing, then I would say 100% just go for it. And the first one you do, it won't be the best one, but just get started, make something, put it out there, and just start to get comfortable, and totally just give it a go. There are also so many helpful people like yourselves. Like, there's so many people you can ask as well. So don't be scared to ask questions and connect with other people.
Chavi?
I'd say definitely start. Do everything Emily has asked you to do. And maybe if you are still not 100% sure what you're doing, instead of saying this is going to be your first episode, maybe say it's episode 0, like for private consumption.
Yeah.
Share it with people in your cohort who you trust. So not your pals, but maybe people who do listen to podcasts are your pals, or on Facebook or on communities where there are podcast editors. You could even sign up to get a mentor in certain groups. Ask for some feedback, and then after that, do episode 1, and you'll find it should help. But don't stop there.
Definitely don't stop. Never stop. Once you get in, don't leave. Don't leave us. We need you. We need your voices. We need your skills. We need your mice. We need you podcasting and editing and all of that. It can be a steep learning curve at the beginning, but start simple and keep going. Quick housekeeping, if I may. Yeah, I may. We have 3 more panels this month. They're every Tuesday. And yeah, I will put the link somewhere really important that you can find it. But you can also go to Eventbrite and search for Global Women Podcast Editor Panel, or just Geopats Podcasting. That's probably easier, and you'll find the other 3. They're at varying times. I shudder to think of me trying to do time zones right now, because that's not going to work. Again, I also have an editing podcast newsletter. Check the links. I will have all that information there. Or you can go to stephfuccio.com, which, if I'm pointing correctly, should go to the right place right about now. Yay! So you can sign up there. I also need to mention that over on this side, I think just above Chavi, is the new Geopats Podcasting logo that we got yesterday. Nice. Big shout out to Ronald Paredes, amazing graphic artist friend of mine who did that. And he is open to other work if anybody needs a logo. Again, I'll have his link in the show notes and video notes and everywhere this will exist. Thank you to the audience. By all means, I love all of the questions that came in today. They made the conversation flow. We had some different things we weren't planning on talking about that were fantastic. And it was so amazing to have people engaged in doing this, and for us to be around the world fighting technology to have this conversation. Let me quick double check. Please share the information about the panels with anybody you know who might be interested. The tickets are absolutely positively free. Speaking of free, we also do take donations at buymeacoffee.com/Geopats, Geopats. I don't think I've missed anything. Have I missed anything? That was a lot of a wrap up. Again, this will be repurposed. Crossing my fingers for within a week over on Geopats Podcasting and on the Geopats Podcast Network YouTube channel. And oh my gosh, I did forget something. Thank you to our panelists, Emily, Chavi, and Emmeline, for all of you coming on today at varying times throughout your day because of time zones. Thank you for coming on and for sharing your podcast editing experiences with us.
Happy to. Nice to meet you, Emily. Emmeline, sorry, missed so much of her.
I know. I'm going to see if I can get more of her messages into the final product too. That's something I can do. Okay. Anyway, so thank you all. I think I've said thank you 700 times. I wonder, have we said podcast or have I said thank you more during this?
A tie. Yeah.
A tie.
Transcription and count. Yeah.
And I'll work on that.
Editor. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to work on that t-shirt. All right. So thank you. I'm going to stop the broadcast right now. End broadcast.